Hello, everybody. I'm Dr. Jesse Jackson III, best-selling author and facilitator of the Don't Kick 'Em Out book and training series, which we're extremely proud of. It has served over 100,000 educators on this program alone. It has become one of our top best-selling books because what it does is it provides answers. So our Don't Kick 'Em Out Student Behavior Institute provides answers. Right? Now, for those of you who are not familiar with me, I'm talking directly to our superintendents and our principals that are looking into 2021, the fall of 2021, 2022. You know you have some issues, that behavior-related issues. You had some problems before COVID. You even had some behavior issues during COVID, which should be more disturbing. All right. So if you're one of those districts that hey, you knew you had some things going on and you were suspending and kicking kids out in COVID, you know you're having some issues that possibly the model or procedure you have in place is not most effective. One thing that I have established a very definite reputation for is behavior and solving behavior issues for companies, for campuses. And the way we're able to do that is a very fundamental process, right? So I've had the chance to work with over 1,400 schools. My feet have stepped on those campuses. I'm able to see what works and what doesn't work. And I've been doing this for a significant period of time, but it's been quality work. I haven't just been doing it. I've had quality experience because on the one side of the thing, I am the therapist that rehabilitates juvenile offenders. So I understood the process of behavior. I understood what worked, what reinforced, what actually enabled. That has been my distinction in my career. I was always the one, when I worked someplace, I would challenge the model or system that was in place when I first got to juvenile. There was a model and a procedure in place that I know created felons. So here it is. They have us doing some 7-step thing, and it's a model that somebody has researched. And for example, here was one of the pillars that they had in the facility that I went in and later eventually took over. So one of their things was they did not make the kids go to school. Can't make this up. So I'm in a juvenile facility. It's doing $9 million a year. It has 80 kids. It does $9 million a year on 80 kids. It has a school involved in the facility, right? They didn't make the kids do school. So the first thing I changed was, if you want to go home, school is mandatory. That was the first thing I changed. Like, what? You gonna be here a year or two and you telling me you didn't credit recovery? Oh no, that's over. And guess what? Now notice, they have been doing it that way for 9 years. I got there in 2 months and said, that's out the door. That's stupid. And guess what? Every single judge backed me. So all it took was somebody who knew what worked. So you could be doing something that you think is research theoretically sound, but it doesn't work for the community. I'm from the community these kids is coming from. I know what's going to happen if they go back there without a diploma. So I'm not listening to you when you're talking about give them grades. They had a policy. They gave kids grades. I cannot make this up. My boss used to tell me, he said the research said if you give the kids A's, they'll see themselves better and they'll behave better. You know who that works for? The adults that work at the facility at the time, not the community they go back to. So my question to you, superintendent, principal, a person that's about to manage the craziest behavior you've ever seen. Is your policies and procedure, is it actually developing a good citizen, a scholarly person, or is it enabling bad conduct? Are we enabling poor behavior? See, that's what you need to think of. See, so what I understood that on the inside, and once I came outside and started working with these schools and seeing what was going on in these schools, they had the same problem my juvenile facility had. Our policy didn't match who was in front of us. We were doing what was good for the employees, things that were easy for the employees to implement, but not correcting mentalities and behavior. We called it on the inside, we called them thinking errors. And guess what? There's image errors and thinking errors. So the schools that have worked with me, right, over the course of my career, those schools get better because our philosophy and approach is we go in and work on the staff. We're not pushing the theory. We help people understand the pillars that the adults that work in that situation have to be able to change the mind and image of this young person. Behavior is about how you see yourself. So you can't come up with some model that you think is kind of plugging holes. Come up with a model that's focused on reward for good behavior. Don't that sound like prison? It's foolish. And guess what? Here's the deal. Here's the deal. You were able to do it before COVID. Good luck. Now, you're going to need a real life development program that teaches the adults the values and the understanding of relating, communicating, confronting, the importance of consistency, the importance of structure. These are things that are all human-based. No model you bring is going to work if you don't have consistency and structure. We change the model every other year. We think the model is going to correct the kid. That's just not true. Top challenges this year are very simple as I see it, right? You're talking about student behavior, which is influenced by race, which is influenced by trauma, which is influenced by the condition of the adult. So if these are things we know, why are we trying to go around that and think we can avoid this process? You can't. If you are a trauma zone school, and that is typically a school that's going to be well over 30 to 40% in free and reduced Title I, you have different realities: the middle class reality, the poor reality, liquid, and then the poverty mentality. This is what we're fighting against, the mentality of poverty. Guys, we were misinformed. Poverty can't be, it's not money. How can poverty be money? Poverty is here. Guys, you can see the poverty in how people think, the manipulation, the devalue for education. Okay, you can see the poverty in that community by the way that it treats its own property, the way that it actually devalues education, the way that it treats its children. Okay, guys, we have parents that don't have an active number on the school's books for a second grader. You call that home and you get a non-working number with a second grader, and that's the emergency contact. That's here. See, the teacher said, what's going on? Here. You're not going to understand it because it's a poverty mentality. Poverty is not liquid. They just got a stimulus check. A lot of our kids, black, white, or brown, they got a stimulus check. It's gone. They got their tax returns. It's gone. So we're trying to change mentality. We're trying to change image and thinking errors. That's not going to happen with theory. Theory's not going to take you there because theory can't fix that. Theory can give you what you think you need to be doing. We need to know what we need to be doing. So what's a trauma zone school? It's where all that stuff that goes on at the house, that crap has come to the school. Death of a loved one, abusive culture, right? The fallout in the relationships with the parents, sexual abuse, financial hardship, mental illness, drug use abuse, okay, health problems in that family, educational deficits. Parents didn't do good in school, but now you're asking them to supervise online programs. I mean, that is so goofy. Like, failure was predictable. Ladies and gentlemen, we have to do better because it's too many smart people in education to get these kind of results. You got to come outside of that thought process. You got to learn how to deal with people. You understand? You got to learn how to deal with people-related issues. And you know what? If you don't know, you should call somebody who does. That's why I'm here. Because we cannot lose this year. One person said to me, and I think it was one of the wisest things I'd heard, this year, your district can either meet the challenge and go forward, or it's going to go so far back that recovery will be there for the next superintendent and the next group of principals because they're going to get wiped out. They're going to quit or get fired because it's going to be that bad. So the deal is trauma is a deeply distressing and disturbing experience. That's stuff that you're going through at home. That crap comes to school with you. Why? It's not healed by time. It lives internally. Broken hearts don't heal without treatment. You got to get help. You got to get help, right? And so a trauma zone school is where all of that comes. So at a trauma zone institution, the difference between one of those traditional schools, I have a lot of traditional schools that have 80% of their families go to work every day, right? 80% of those families were married or not or divorced, but they at least tried a concept of family, right? So at those families, if you call home or call a parent, you'll get support from 80%. That's tradition, right? You could call home for a behavior issue and it'll get addressed. That's black, white, or brown. Those environments do exist. But in a trauma zone, black, white, or brown, the kids need daily pep talks. Kids need follow-ups. And then you might get an adult that blames you for the kid's behavior. So at these type of schools, you have to retrain the staff. And this is what I'm saying. Don't go back to the old habits of these weak, watered down trainings. They don't work. And the staff is, the thing is, the staff is protesting. We need answers. We can't go back in 2021 in the fall, post-pandemic, and go back in there with the build relationship model. That doesn't make any sense. We got adults trying to build relationships with adolescents. As that's going to heal it? As the foundation? No, this is a school. This is not therapy. This is a school, not human services. A school, everybody knows. If you can like the person, being likable is more culpable than the theory of build relationship. No, we got to have teachers that know how to build rapport with kids. Rapport is connecting, having an understanding. Build relationships, I'm telling you, is one of the most dysfunctional concepts. It's just like poverty. That's a dysfunctional concept because what teachers took from being introduced to poverty was enablement. Oh, these kids, what they get from it, low expectations. And the same thing that people got from the relationship concept is if I like the kid and the kid likes me and we've got a good relationship, they're going to work for me. That's not true. They work for the teachers they might not have a good relationship with, but they know the teacher relates to them and respects them. These are fundamental concepts of production. You might not like your boss or have a good relationship with your boss, but we have rapport. You might be likable, easier to work with. We might not have a relationship, but my interaction with you is healthy and productive. We're skipping too many steps. We're trying to violate steps and wonder why we don't get results. It just doesn't make sense. The teachers got to be trained differently. We call it the at-risk youth specialized program. You've got to train this teacher in real facts and clarity. So the deal is this here. What can we expect when these kids come back? I can tell you right now, this fall, this is why I know you got to get this under control. You're going to see an abundance of willful defiance and abundance of what I call trauma residual. That will show itself in fighting, sexual misconduct, and verbal assaults. Okay, now if you look at my screen here, at my chart, verbal assaults are in the no-fly zone. Sexual misconduct, no-fly zone. Fighting, no-fly zone. Willful defiance is something we can get ahead of, right? So this means that an institution is going to have to come back to the table on behavior. That means the higher-ups, superintendents, central office, principals need to sit down and we need to get an understanding about how we're going to manage behavior. If you're saying we're going to the handbook, guys, the handbook right now is causing more problems for us because what's happening is that people do not honor and respect their own rules. They're making the rules up as they go along. So the purpose of the Don't Kick 'Em Out Student Behavior Institute is to help management first to get the right approach, the right policies, and the right practices. So the solution, so that's the key, right? We need to know which way we're going to approach this. What are the policies that are going to support what we want? And then let's come with the right practice. Right now, the way we do it is we're starting with practice. Literally, people are seeking best practices. This is why literally 30% of all American schools, higher than that, are doing the same behavior model, the reward system, right? They sought practice first. Practice isn't, you don't start with the practice, you start with the approach. The first thing you have to have when you're a faculty is the right approach to the kid. The first thing you needed in COVID when we were going through it last year, that's what I talked to my principals about, my superintendents about. How are you going to approach this? Because there's two mentalities. There's one is obstacle, one is opportunity. The same rain falls on us all. COVID fell on all of us. But why is it that some people seen an obstacle and another district saw an opportunity? Same circumstance. It's here. You don't start with practices. That's what PBIS is. That's what restorative practice is. That's what these other models. That's practice. No. You start with, what's my approach? And when I know my approach, then I can find my policy, right? When I find my policy, then our practices can be built and developed. This is the only way it works. When I went to that jail, I needed to know what my approach was. My first approach to the guys, there was a lot of fighting going on when I got there. And I just noticed, being a kid that understands their lifestyle and mentality, I could go in there and use my power and say, we're going to lock you up. I'm going to send you to prison for fighting. I went in there immediately. Some guys was going to prison anyway. And I just went in and said, hey, guys, this is supposed to be therapy and treatment. This is a process where people can come to get better. Nobody can get better if we in here fighting and hurting each other. All I'm asking y'all to do, particularly the older guys, give me an opportunity to help the younger guys not go to prison. I'm asking y'all to shut the fighting down for me. We got you, Doc. I could have went and said, I'm the law. Y'all gonna find out. Fight again, I'm locking you up. They was fighting already. They don't care. It's how you approached it. I knew how to approach it. That's why I had 1.5 fights in 5 years. That's how I dropped that fight number. I approached it right. That's how you can drop your suspension numbers. By approaching it right. Not by cooking the books and telling your teachers don't write things up. That doesn't work. And the solution of it is, you got to promote that healthy development of in the company. So it has to be a culture of building and professionally developing and personally developing your faculty. That's what will benefit the company. What area do we want to build them in? It's very simple. It is in the areas of policy, structure, teamwork, consistency, communication, confrontation, self-confidence, building them up, and increasing student rapport. Those are the pillars. That's where we put all of our energy in our institute, in building the staff in these pillars. These are character latent pillars. This means the staff and everybody that works there who comes to the course will get better. They will grow as people. Personal growth will help you rectify the issue. If I have a very sensitive person that works on our staff, a sensitive teacher can't work in the trauma zone and be successful. It's just not going to happen. They're going to fight with the kid the whole time. If I have an angry person who's working with these kids, they're going to fight all the time. If I have a passive aggressive person, they're going to get run over. Do you see what I'm saying? So the challenge is, it's to be able to build in these key pillars. If you build people in these areas, show them how to do it better. Show them how they've responded in the past. Show them what are healthy responses in the future. You get a much better outcome. This has been our magic formula. We help people grow personally. So as a professional has to get better in the critical skills, particularly being a teacher. That's where you start. That's the approach. If I start here and build up, I win. If I start with a practice, soon as a person's flaw shows up, they can't maintain it. So here are some of the things we talk about in our institute. Just as I said, building teacher self-confidence, building teachers' ability to set expectations, to prevent. We talk about how to prevent toxic student behavior, have efficient policies, building in classroom structure, how to be a reliable teammate, how to build the practice of consistency, how to confront negative student behavior. How does one build student rapport? How do we get the suspensions down without cooking the books? These are things that we do. What are the practices that should be in place? What is the brutal reality of working with a population where the prison pipeline is real? So if we mismanage this, we're developing kids with bad criminal habits. We can't afford to do that, right? We have to know that, and we got to get it fixed. And so how do we build confidence in the children? How do we build them up so they respond better? And then how do we create behavior strategies that we know work? Here's the process. You start with management first. You'll never lose this, right? You start this discipline process with management first. So what I like to do with a district, I like to bring in all of central office and the principals first. And let's sit down. Let's go over this list. Let's go over our practices as a company. At a school, what do I like to do? Bring in the leadership team at that school, particularly the high schools. Bring the leadership team in, eight and up of them. Sit down. Let's go over it. If we do it as a team first, leadership team, now we start seeing what's happening with the teachers. Trust me, the teachers are not the problem. Teachers are not the problem. The teachers will follow the structure and foundation set forth from the campus. Here's the problem. We'll have a district that believes in don't kick them out, and here's the tools to beat it. But we go campus to campus, and we start noticing that campuses adjust versus the principal's personality. So we got some campuses are going to reinforce it because that principal is all business. And we have another campus where we have a principal that's a little bit more lenient, non-confrontational. They don't like to argue. They don't like to hurt feelings. The parents come up there and start threatening them. They back down every time. You're going to lose. So why would you start with the teachers when you need to start with management? Management is where you start. Also, courses in there, we talk about the pillar of managing the classroom, but managing personalities, okay? How do you build relationships and rapport? How do you build team culture? These are courses within the Institute. Now, the way the Institute works, and here's our expectation, as we said, we start with district management first. That's the way it works. We're flexible on time. It is a 2 to 3 hour process. So if you're in a situation where, hey, it is a year-long program and it takes place, some institutions need to do monthly. That is not common. But everybody's on a quarterly, and then some people do what's called a summer institute, which I'm recommending, right? So you're going into the summer. I would say right now, if you're one of those districts I would carve that time out over the summer, bring my principals in, because you're not going to regret it. Bring my deans in, bring my principals in. If you're a charter school management company, you don't even have a choice. Behavior, don't let behavior beat you this year. This is a very fundamental process. We're flexible on the time. That 2 to 3 hour window, like I say, this just depends on we're flexible to what you need. We still have some people doing Zooms, and it worked out better for them than us being in person. We have some people you still got to go to in person. We're flexible to your needs. So you tell us what works. But the thing is, you better know your organization. You better know what works best, right? And so if you do a summer institute, that's 2 to 3 days. You bring the whole company and we break it down however you want to do it. You start quarterly, that we like you to start July, preferably. August is always a full month for us, but you can let us know. So you start at the top of the year, then you compound it over the course of the year. That's the way our process works. That's how it's worked. The one and done day is over. I'm not a keynote speaker. I can and do all that stuff. I am a trainer. I'm a trainer by heart. I do this by discipline. I'm very regimented. I know what works. And the thing is, I know how to talk to staff. I know how to get them to do what we need them to do. Because the key is with them, we're having a very delicate conversation, which you're asking them to evaluate themselves, not reflect, evaluate themselves and make changes. And that's our art to get them to do it. And we have been pretty good at it. So we have a very high rating among teachers, over 93%. And I mean, you're talking about that's up to over 50,000 people, man. I mean, and that's in one training setting. Upwards to 100,000, I believe. We're over 100 on this one, right? The key is to understand how to do it. So if you know this is something that you need, our Don't Kick Them Out Student Behavior Institute, listen, today, stop what you're doing. Email us right now. Call us right now. We're playing a full schedule this year, but I'm doing everything in my power. On our staff's power, I'm wearing my team out. And my manager will tell you, I really get on her nerves because when I talk to a superintendent that I know I want to work with, if I talk to a principal that I know needs my help, I'm not going to tell the person, hey, I'm full. I'm going to say, hey, let me work it out. When you hear me say, let us work it out, that means I want to work with you. Right now, I'm asking right now, people listening to me, I'm asking 100 schools, 100 superintendents, principals to call me. Let's work together and let's solve and resolve the issue of behavior. Don't go into another school year with this being a deficit. This is the year to solve this problem and to make your campus and your organization better on this topic. If you know I could help you, call me today. I'm so much looking forward to working with you soon. I'll see you in class. Be well.